Presentation is excellent. Do I get video? No video yet. And we have video. Sweet. Okay. So apparently I've been streaming this to the wrong account for 3 days. But, anywho, the base is done. Oh, I got a couple spots where it peeled up along the edge. Here. Center sat down good. Yeah, it just looks like it's this edge right here. Probably was not flat. Yeah, when I push this down, that pops up. I push this down, that pops up. So that may just be the way it is. Let's see here. There's that one. That looks to have smushed it down. Oh, no, I still have a gap. Well, the only issue I have is that edge. It's not too bad. The magnets, they zick. That's good. And now we can move up a layer. So let's see, what do I got left for parts? Three lengths of that, which is the front and the horizontal rails. I have 2 lengths of this. Here's my vertical rails. That makes sense. I have some aluminum angles, which is the clamping mechanism. I have some big old bolts, M5s by 70s, tensioner. I have a bag of M4 by 4s, or M4 by 5s. I don't exactly remember where those are. Got my hinges. I have 2 rods left. And I have a bag of springs. Oh. And some more M4 by 8s. Which is the same as that bag. Okay. And now I have an empty box. So I think I'll start out by building the C. Basically how this is going to end up is something like that. It hinges across the back And then 1 rail, 2 rails with the bearing widgets in them. Other side. I haven't even looked at these hinges yet. Came with hardware, flat heads and drop-in nuts. It's kind of nice. Oh, it's a 4-pack. I forgot it was a 4-pack because I only need 2. So these 2 pieces get bolted together like so. So I'll, dwinkle around and get that evenly split. Actually, we'll keep this little bag like so. Put those pieces back in it when I'm done. So the clamp holders bolt to these slidey bits. I think they go like that. And there is a lefty and a righty slidey bit. So they'll go like that. This will go on there. And then on the front, there's a set like so with a clampy bit. The frame gets corners. And on this end of the rods, there's springs, spring caps and clamps. Here's the rod holders. There is a tensioning assembly. Goes together, I think, sort of just like that. Yep, just like that. That goes there. Look around it. So on these rods go these clips. Like so. 70mm bolt goes through this tensioning assembly and into this guy. These guys go back in these corners to hold the adjusters. And along with the adjuster, there's knobs like that. And that's all the printed parts I have, and I think that's everything I need. So for right now, I'm going to nuke the adjusters. I will also nuke the hinges, and this piece can go back in the box for right now. I'm also going to set the rods aside, and the rod holders. The spring clamps. Tensioner assembly. There's one corner. Other corner. Set those aside. And I'm going to set half of this aside. So I'm just going to worry about getting this part of the frame put together. this goes this way, right? Yep. In the background, you can hear my 3D printer humming away. Hopefully printing out... Nope, there's one more bit I gotta print. So, my sister-in-law is notoriously hard to buy for. She doesn't, you know, I see them once every couple months-ish, and really doesn't give you a whole lot for ideas. So this year I went with a gift card, and I'm 3D printing a gift card holder with a maze in it. So I'm going to make her work for that gift card. I think I got everyone else covered for Christmas. Got some train stuff for Dad, and built a keyboard kotatsu. Oh, actually those guys might actually watch this video at some point before Christmas. So I better stop there. But I'm thinking through everybody. I think I got everyone covered. I got stuff for both my niece and my nephew. Got my brother covered, many ways to Sunday. Got stuff for Mom, got stuff for Dad. So, and then my sister-in-law. Oh, come on, start. There you go. So there I got these little guys I'll put in. So now I'm just gonna, best I can, lining it up flush with the top and flush with the back. And then I'm going to try and lock the screws in. Now normally you'd leave both sides loose until you get them together and then square it up and then tighten them. But there's so much slop in these T-nuts that it really doesn't matter. And I'm tightening them down until the plastic just starts to distort. Like so. So it just sucked in just a little teeny weeny bit. I printed these at 15% infill. Honestly, I probably should have gone with 30. And they'll work, but they're a bit soft. So, same thing on this side. Line up that corner best I can. And try and get one of these. There, that one went. Anybody, just grab, please. Okay. And then these ones, oh, there, that grabbed. That middle one is just spitting. So the nuts are much smaller than this width, so the edges don't hit and bind. So you got to pull the nut against the aluminum, tighten it down until there's just a wee bit of little friction, then you can go at it with a wrench. So that's what I was trying to do there. Okay, those are in. Double check that that is a side rail. Slide the side rail in. So for this outside corner, definitely want it flush. And also I'm going to try and square it up with the square, which actually turns out to be harder than it looks because things are in the way and nothing is flat. That looks relatively good right there. So, tightening these down until they just start to compress the plastic a bit. So this corner here is not lined up. This one's nice and lined up. So my OCD is going to get the better of me. So I'm just loosening all the hardware. There. Make sure that corner's closed. So if I was going to redesign these corner brackets, I'd probably put a strip here and flipped it to the back side. So I'd probably put a little strip between these two holes, not extending into the corner cube. That way the same piece could be used on both sides. That just aligns in these channels. That would keep some of this racking and manual adjustment out of this. Because that could just plop down into the channels, lock this square. I am totally not square. Oh, I goofed that up. Well, good news. With the right Allen wrench, they're easy to adjust. But anyways, that little plastic rib could lock the plastic pieces into the aluminum pieces and get everything correct the first go without having to piss around with a square like this. And also the fact that these T-nuts are undersized, they sometimes skitter and go kittywampus, and that pulls the joint out of shape too. So I got a little bit of a gap there. That annoys me, but... And it keeps... See, I tighten those bolts down. Look how... Why isn't this tightening up? I'm having technical difficulties with my square. Let's see, what do I got for clamps? Those are loose. Those are tight. Okay, the corner gap is closed up. Everything is locked in as best as I can do it. Let's see how much everything moves when I remove the clamp. It moved some, but it's a lot better than it was. I call that corner good. Okay. Next piece that goes on is It's the opposite corner, but I'm out of nuts. Seems like I ordered way too many nuts, but we will find out. So I got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 more nuts. These little square nuts. Again, I had to do it over. I would not buy the square nuts unless I could find ones. These are 7 millimeters across. If I could find ones that are like 8 to 10, that would work a lot better, because then the corners of the nuts would, when they twisted, would get jammed in these channels. These are drop-in nuts, so you can put those in after the fact. I think those were the next cheapest option over these nuts, and they would make putting this whole thing together a lot easier and faster. But they were significantly more, and I was expecting these nuts to be sized such that they could just slide in the rails and jam like they normally do. I think if this was using M5 fasteners instead of M4s, the square nuts for that would just be like perfect for this rail, but they're not. The parts are printed such that the holes the hardware goes through is just slightly too small for an M5. Those are... oh, that's M4. Take my word for it. I did check. And you could thread an M5 fastener through there, but you'd be cutting threads as you go. Hey, I'm almost through the first box of, I mean, where there are 50 button heads. Cool. I do have a second box, so that's should not be an issue. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, that makes sense. So you can see down in there, the nut locked in the rails, it's actually on top of this side and falling down in on this side, so that cap screw is pulling the part slightly this way. So totally not the best option. And I'll probably talk about it again when I put the next section together, because it kind of annoys me. But the money's spent. Carry on. It will work good enough for the light duty that this little guy will be under. And just double check. Pretty even on the back side, or even on the top. And I think I am just going to clamp this again. That worked out relatively well. They're not the best clamps in the world, but they work. Okay, so I got that together. That one almost feels like the nut fell off. Because the nut did fall off. Son of a biscuit. I have a possible fix for that. So I'm looking up underneath it, getting the nut aligned with the hole. I'm hoping I get lucky and I can lose the screw somewhere else. Okay, there it is. Put the wrench through it. Ooh, I think I got it. Got it. Very nice. I recovered the nut without having to take everything apart. So that side is done. This one is not cooperating. There it goes. Pop the clamps off and see how close we are. Fairly close. Take it. So there's that frame. Now I can't put this side on until I put all the other accoutrements on. What should be next? I think next I need to figure out these guys. I'm going to take this one out just for now. So this is the clamp system. And I have a booger. Booger gone. So these two go like this. And I got something not right. I wonder if these are too thick. Oh, damn it. This is supposed to fit in that slot, and they're too thick. So this is 2mm angle. He must have like 1.5 or 1mm. Like, yeah, 1.5mm angle. I don't even know if I can get that anywhere. Let me check my stock. Well, 1/16 by 3/4 is 1.6 millimeters. It's roughly the same dimensions for that. And both bolt holes will fit for the end caps. The one is very close to breaking out. You can see there when I line it up, it's right on the edge. Where with true metric, a little bit more, not much. Yeah, there's just a hair more material. So I'm gonna have to cut some new aluminum bits, and I have some other aluminum bits to go in my pile because I ordered the wrong stuff. And when I was ordering this, I don't think I had an option for thicknesses. Or I had options, but I think this was the thinnest stuff that was standardly stocked. But the good news about all this is I can double check this dimension. So what I'm trying to figure out at the moment is, in the center of this goes a bearing. So this overall length to the start of that, say, is 23 millimeters. We'll say it's 24 to be happy. So I have 24 millimeters on either side of the long rail that I have to avoid. I know these uprights are 300 millimeters long. And the outside rail is 20. So, double check this. All right, 300, almost dead on. So, 300 minus 40 for the two 20 millimeter sides gives me 260, minus 48 for the 24 from the start of that. So 212 millimeters. And I had gotten these pieces 210. So yeah, I think I stuck. My guesstimations from scaling were pretty spot on. So let me go cut some of these. Which means I need my saw again, which I covered up with crap. Oh, give me a minute. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, I could have totally saved myself some money by just using the stock I had versus getting fancy metric stock. It turns out it was the wrong length. So my plan is I'm going to put a stop on my saw using this piece, and then cut both of the other pieces to that length. So even if I'm slightly off, it's still close enough. As long as they're the same length and I'm within probably 5, if I'm if I'm short no problems if I'm, well, other than some lost usability. And if I'm as long as I'm within, 3 to 5 millimeters, or 10, 12, 2 millimeters, as long as I'm within 2 millimeters, it won't be an issue. Okay, got that set. Make sure that block is tight. Probably should trim the end of this rod first, just because it's a little beat up. Ooh. Here's my first two pieces, and they're slightly under length, but nearly spot on. So I have half a millimeter off from my target. But now, if everything's hunky-dory, they fit. This piece fits on. It's still a tight fit. That's just what it is. And the way this works is you open it up like that, you stick your stencil in, and then use bolts to clamp it back down again. So what this means to the overall scheme of things is I got replacements for these two so they can go in the can. I may wait to cut the other ones. I can figure that out now. So put those in my aluminum pile for future projects. I will need to deburr the ends of these. They're still quite sharp. Deburring tool, not very expensive. Amazon, any supply house. You can cut yourself pretty good with them if you're not careful. So, doing what I'm doing right now is probably an Oshinono. Cutting towards your thumb, but it's how I do it. I still have my thumb. I haven't cut myself on one of those yet. I've cut myself on plenty of another instrument over the years. Just not these. Day's not complete without a few air compressor cycles. Okay, that piece is ready to rock and roll. Oh, much better. So the next piece I was mumbling about is the inner piece. So again, I got to cut it smaller, or cut thinner, cut thinner. But I was guessing at the scaling between these two blocks, so the piece has to fit right in there. looks like I can get a couple more millimeters out of it. So where's my tape measure? Line that up on the 2. Line that up on 10. So 195. So I can cut off the next piece at 195 or a little less. And that would be ideal. So I actually want something I can get a little bit finer of a mark with. So 195. So if I make that mark disappear, that should be the ideal length to fit between these two blocks in the printer body. So let's go lop one off at that length. And those are slightly smaller due to that overlap on the block than the main ones. See how this fits. Yeah, it's a bit tight. So probably can file that down. Yeah, I want to take a gnat's butt off. Just trying to figure out the best way to do that. Oh, I think that's going to count. Yep. Make another one of those. Okay. These can go into the scrap aluminum pile as I rain down flakes of aluminum dandruff. Perfect. Okay, I need to deburr these. Grab my clamp back. And this can go back to once it came. Oh. I don't even remember what these are for. I think they're for bending legs on resistors, maybe? The various little tools in my collection. Oh, I forgot I had a gripper. sparring blade might just be getting dull. Okay, so I got all those ready to rock and roll. So put those two aside, put these two together, and so now I got to figure out the spacings. I probably can put the end caps on first. That's the long one, yep. So there's 3 holes in the end cap. And I gotta figure out the distance so I can mark them on both ends. Oh. So the first one, I'm gonna say is about 13.5 up from the bottom. I'm going to do some poor man Dykem, just a Sharpie marker. Like so. And there's the first one. Yep. And then on the other side, it's also same dimension to the upper hole. So like that. That dimension was 13.5. Write that down. And then the lower hole, about 4. Yep, 4. The other one is 4. The offset for these is 4. Let me use the little weird random notes will make pretty much no sense to anyone else, but I'm going to pop a picture of this and then record it for future use in case anyone else ever wants to make one of these. They don't have to sit here and try and figure out, or sit here and reverse engineer it from the photos like I did. photos and physical parts. So now I need 0, 13.5. There's 1. That one didn't scribe very well. There's 2. Automatic center punch. Now these are going into nuts in holes, so I'm hoping they don't have to be perfectly exact. And also, if needed, I can always drill these holes slightly oversized. But these are M3s, I'm guessing. Where's my bag of M3s? M3s by, yeah, that's an M3 hole. M3s by 8 should be plenty. So I need my M3 hardware, because I need a bunch of nuts. So there's 3 nuts per one of these. There's, I think this is an M4. Now that looks to be an M3 too. I'm guessing it's not an 8 though. Yeah, an 8 would work, but it'd be really tight. So I'm probably going to have to go up to 10s. So for each end cap I need 3 nuts. So there's the first end cap. I'll just throw them in there. There's 1 end cap. There's 2 end caps. There's 3 end caps. There's 4 end caps. Then each one of these little dividers gets a nut, so that's 4 per rail. There's 1. And there is 2. So that should be all the hardware I need. Make a mess with my nuts. Don't you hate it when you make a mess with your nuts? Okay. Kind of fun, but still. Leave this case out because I'm probably going to need more. And then I was going to look for a clearance hole for an M3. M3 clearance drill is number 29. Grab that. And then also I need a center drill. One of those. Yeah, he's got a good tip on him. So first I'm going to drill this, put the end caps together, make sure that works out. Then if that works out, the next step is figuring out exactly how this goes together and where the holes for these parts need to be. Which that's going to be a little trippy just because of the shape. I think what I'll end up doing is figuring out where this hole ends up in this part and then use this part to mark that part. Maybe. We'll see. Be right back. drill press has a bit of a wobble today. I apparently picked the dull end of the center drill. It's not so much cutting as it is just sort of smushing aluminum around. So I may just cut that point off so I don't use it again in the future. Oh yeah, much sharper. Ever tried to sharpen one of these center drills? But for their cost and the fact that you want the point right in the center, I don't think I'm going to bother. So I just zipped the point off so I don't try to use it again. The other end's still good, so continue on with that. And then once the other end is dull, I just go buy some new ones. Okay, I got my holes drilled. The front side is nice and smooth as expected, and the back side is quite boogered due to the dull center drill. But quick chase with a countersink, and got a nice smooth surface again. Well, maybe. Yeah, there that goes. Oh. I think I totally biffed that. M3 is 29. 29 is too big. It is a very loose fit. Well, if everything works, I'll leave it alone. So when this is tensioned, it's going to be pulling the part that way, so they shouldn't move around all that much. But let's try assembling the first one of these. Definitely M3, no bigger. See if I can get this nut in. There it goes. Whew, nice. Center punch for the win. So when I printed this, I bet I printed the orientation with this up. Oh, in fact, I know I did, because there's this little lip, which makes that first one really hard to get in, because there's drooping threads down where the nut should sit. There's those three. And that would line up with that part. My hole is oversized, as I expected. But due to the slop in probably my measurement and my drilling, it's not too big. These are quite tight. So I think I'll just... Oh, fuck. These ones are not lining up well. That one is. This one was not. So I think I cross-threaded that nut. Let me grab pliers. Not only did I cross-thread that nut, I've spun the nut in its little socket. So I'm royally hosed. The other two worked out good. So I'm going to figure out a way to twist this while holding the nut. And not being able to see it. Another win for the center punch. So when I drilled this one, it's slightly too far that way. So I'll remeasure that hole and see if I just was off on the drilling, or if my measurements are off. So the original thought on this one was 4 millimeters. And that's like 4.3. So I'm going to change that for the next set. So 4.3. And then I'm just going to elongate these holes quick. Improperly using drill press. Actually, it might be quicker and easier to use the Dremel tool. Burr. There is a burr. Looks better. Oh, I need to put a new nut in there too while I'm at it. possibly a new screw. So this nut is in good shape. This nut, other than being a spinner, is hooped. I need something to get that out. Broken dental picks for the win. That goes straight in the trash can. So now I need a new nut. And I'll probably put a drop of super glue in it before I'm done. Okay, the nut's good. The bolt is not. Try putting this together again. Sucked all the way that way. Cool. Don't even need to glue it. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy on that just yet. So the next piece is I need to divide this into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, fifths. And my length is 195, 194. Almost exactly. At my list of updates. So outer. Outer is 210. It's 194. Yep. That one needs to be updated on my list. So 194 divided by 5 is 38.8, which if it was 195 would be 39 millimeters. What's the pitch? So these two holes are 50 millimeters apart, dead on. So, which is probably right for 210 divided by 5. No, that's wide even for that. So my initial thought was 1, 2, was that and these two, the spacing between all the holes would be dead nuts even. So 50, 50, 50. But if I do 50, 50, 50, these two guys end out way at the ends. So there's less clamping, there's wider distances between each group, so there's less clamping force on each end. So if we do 50 times 3, that's 150. So 194 minus 150 divided by 2. There'd be 22 millimeters in from each end, then a gap of 50, and then a gap of 50. That might be alright-ish. So 22. Oh, nope, that totally makes sense. So what's going on here with that setup, I'll actually measure it out on this piece. So if we go 22, good enough. This is the crappy marker. 22 from that end. Strike a line. Actually, I don't know how far in that's going to be, so go all the way from the back. So 22 from that end, and then do the same thing on this end. I think this marker is nearing the end of its life. Give it another little douse of alcohol and see if I can get a little bit more out of it. I kind of doubt it. So there's the two lines, 22. So I got 22 and 22. I'm getting a little more life out of it. So the next one is 22 plus 50, or 72 in. Maybe not. So what we actually have here, let me just grab these first before I forget. So what we actually got going on is we got 22 on this side, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25. So for basically 25 millimeters on either side of the screw is the clamping force for that screw. So again, we have another screw, 25 on either side, another screw, 25 on either side, another screw, 25. So had I evenly spaced this on 5s, the end screws would have an extra half or double the distance it needed to squeeze. So anything out here would be really loosely clamped compared to something in here. So in the future, when you have 5 screws, 8. So double the number of screws. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 to 8. So double it and subtract 2. Would that work? So if I had 6 screws, let's say, let's say I had a piece with 6 screws. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'd split these in half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So why is 5, 8, and 6, 12? Oh, this is 4 screws. 6 screws. Brain fart. Sorry, guys. So, take your number of screws, double it, and that's how many divisions you need to divide out to figure out the spacing. So, 4 screws, double it to 8. So I take my 194, divide by 8. So you need basically 24 per division. But I'm going to suck up, since this one's already split to 50, I'm going to roll it up to 25. So 25 times 6, because that's all the central divisions. So there's that 150. So 194 minus 150 leaves you over with 44 for the last 2 divisions, which is 22. So yeah, math works out. So do your number of screws doubled, 8. Your total length, yeah. Problem is, since I'm not a even multiple of my split, you got to do weird things on the end too. But your number of clamping screws doubled, your total length divided by that number, multiply that by 2, and that gives you your inner lengths, and you use that length straight up for the end too. Okay, I fail at math, but I get there in the end. So in this case, it's 22, 22, and then 50, 50, 50, which is actually 225 side by side. So now the problem is figuring out this distance. Where the heck is that hole? Ooh. A mirror. And someone's going to say, well, just look at the 3D print. Oh, there's the nut slot. I can do it off of that. So the nut slot is basically 5.5. So 2.25. So I just have STLs, and I have not found a good way to suck them into FreeCAD and get usable dimensions out of them. You know, you can get close, but I can also eyeball it and get just about as close. So there's probably just a learning thing there. That I need to do. God, that's hard to. So if anyone has any bright ideas on FreeCAD and STLs and how to suck them in, I would love to know how to do that better. So I know how to bring the STL in. That's just an import. But how to get usable measurements off the STL is the hard part. So about 5.75 is where I'm going to say this surface to that is. And the way this slides on here, this one is the inner one, and then this one is, well, actually, there's nothing to say that I can't put on that on the back. Ooh, I should check that. One moment, please. So in the pictures, I do indeed have it backwards. Glad I checked. So he has it so this piece is on the back. So instead of being on top of this rail and then clamping in between, he is it on the back of this rail and clamping it in between, which that gives you a little bit more gap on either end, so I can go up to 195 instead of 194, which that makes a whole lot more sense on everything, because everything else in this design has been relatively even multiples of millimeters. So when I bolt this all together, that bolt head would be right there. If I slide that all the way down, what do I get for about 2 millimeters? So, yep, if this was 1 millimeter longer, everything would have been good. So I need to measure this not from the front, but from the back. So from the back to the center of that, 9 millimeters. So for this bolt up, unfortunately my lines are on the other side. Oh, that pen is so dead. So from this surface here, it needs to be right there for 9 millimeters. Now overall, this is English channel, but it's 19.18. So if I go clear, 19.18 minus 9 gives me 10.18. God, I should have been able to do that in my head. 10 point, at least one would think. I was there, honest. 6. .1716. Close enough. So I'm just converting from 9 millimeters from the back to 10.17 millimeters from the front. And that should give me the location where these holes need to be. And once I get one of these working, or drilled, then I can use transfer punches to get the other side, hopefully. Now I'm at slightly an angle, which pulls this line towards the front edge, so I'll need to go back slightly farther before it's done. But yeah, that looks Yep, relatively centering the hole. So I'm going to drill one of these. See where that ends up. And then figure out the rest of them. Lots of stick out on the center drill, so I clear the aluminum. One very dull center drill, all up by should be a number 29, yep. One very dull number 29 drill bit, apparently. Well, it's not super dull. It is actually cutting chips, but it's leaving a pretty hefty burr on the back of the aluminum. It's usually an indication that the drill bit is starting to dull out. Clean up that burr. So the hole, it's slightly back. So yeah, I need to bring the holes forward slightly. So I'll do that on the next one. That may have been my fault with marking them. Let me go do that one. Had a couple people pop in. 4 playbacks today. That's like a record. Okay, cleaned off the burr. Let's line up the part. Oh, that's bang on where it needs to be. Since I got the burr in this already, yep, now that's opened up slightly. Okay, so let me check my horizontal distance. Yep, that works out with the double. So the key is slightly north of my mark. Go drill all those, and once I have those drilled, I can come back and transfer the marks from this piece into that piece. That is the theory. theory in life right now. Sorry for the lack of drilling. I was looking at my punches, and the punch that fits that hole the best for transferring it, unfortunately, is too tall. So by the time when the tip touches the bottom side, so I can punch the next piece, the shaft of the punch, I guess you call it, isn't in the hole yet. We're still on the taper. So I will have to figure out a way to space that such that it actually hits what it should. Man, that is a dull drill bit. So I should write down those dimensions and take photos of them, so I have them for later. Okay, grab my center punches, grab the one center punch I actually need. I think it's this one. So this guy is really tight, and this guy's slightly loose. You know, they probably make a set of metric center punches. That's probably what I actually need to get, especially when I'm doing work like this. But I don't have those, so English it will be, and it will likely be slightly off. So the first thing I want to do, I need to center this. So this is 210, this is 195-ish. So we have 15 millimeters, yeah, 15 left over. So what I'm trying to do here is calculate the offset for one of these holes so I can make a mark, and then I can just slide this guy back and forth and get everything lined up right where it needs to be. So we got 194 in this case, minus 210, so 16 millimeters, so 8 millimeters. So I gotta tack on 8 millimeters on the end. And then we got 50 plus 22. Plus 8. Oh, nice even 80 millimeters. I can deal with that. So we'll go out here to 80. Poor man's Dykem. Get a slightly more accurate scratch mark. Not perfect. For what I'm doing, it will be good enough. So there's the center line of the holes. grab my 1, 2, 3 blocks. Use them to hold this works up. And this goes like this. So this clamps this way onto the stencil, and then this rides on the bearings this way to tighten it. So I got this correctly oriented. And there you can see I have, hopefully you can see, I have that scribe line bisecting that circle right in the center. And then hold this with one hand and go like that. That's where the center of that hole should be. Repeat for this one. Now he needed to be a bit more, because that's the one I misdrilled. So as you can see, or maybe not, this punch is slightly too small for these holes. So I'm just doing the best I can to line it up in the middle, give it a pip, and in theory, that's where we need to drill that one. Set that aside. Actually, I have a plan. Stand. So we know this one is correct. So I should be able to sort of align these two pieces best I can. Some more nice flat 1, 2, 3 blocks. Do I have one more? I have one more. This is why it's always good to have lots of 1, 2, 3 blocks. That there is square into that corner. This is the boogered hole, so I'm going to go towards the top. Okay, this is a good hole, so just go right in the middle. Okay. I think everything moved. So reposition and grab hold of everything. One is done. Okay, just double check my work. Yep. So that guy is all marked and ready for drilling. So I have two choices on this one. I can mark these holes using this piece, or I can drill these and then use this to mark the other one. I think I'm going to go that route. Dismantle this. Oh, the pips are on the back side. I'll need a block of wood to space this up on the drill press to drill them. Yeah, so this one's good. I can go back in the box once I check this. Those line up good. Those line up good. Those line up good. So yep, I can go back in the box with the pieces for that corner. And go drill these. Extra chunk of wood. Yep. Current spacer block is too short, but this new spacer block should be just fine. might be wearing off. I'm starting to get sort of the shakes. Either that or the caffeine from yesterday is finally wearing off. I'd say equal. Both are equally likely at this point. One rail drilled. Pilot drilled, I should say. That's two. Bach, but not the musical kind. There we go. Hose this up. Those look good. Those look good. And that one's slightly too low. Enough. I may have to trim these holes a little more. There's two of those. Clean this one up. And I drilled right through my measurement. This. So I got a slightly different countersink because the body of this one was too big to get down in here to hit these. It does not cut as well. Cut as well is the wrong term. It takes more force to cut with it. So, electric screwdriver it is. Okay, so in theory, when this block is on these and it's pushed against the back, yeah, that looks spot on. Works. Let's see if I can figure out what this distance is. I'd say that's 6.5. That should be all the critical dimensions for that side. Grab a photo of that in case I need it. And the only dimension on this is these, and they're 13.5. Done. The center of these 7.5. So these go together like this. Oop, oh, not that one. Sweet, they line up. So if that's 6.5, it'd be one thickness of this farther, which is about 1.5-ish. So I'd say it should be about 8. And it is. Sweet. This is 50. Okay, got that documented. Now I need to transfer all these holes into those holes. I'll be maybe not. Nope. See, I'll be slightly smarter this time and actually clamp that bottom piece into this block arrangement. That's one less thing moving around on me. Is that the low one? No, that's the low one, I do believe. Actually, this stick, they're all pretty good. Boy, I got that one way too high. That looks better. Okay. Should I need these again? I have one more hole to transfer, so I'll need those again. Off to drill some holes. I'll be back. Wrong drill bit. much pasta. With that, I should be done drilling clearance holes for 3mm drills, or screws, bolts, nuts, whatever they are. So I'll put that guy back. And time to I don't want to double the hole, so I'm pecking at the countersink bit. Did I do that one? Yeah, I did. Last three. Okay, if I did this correctly, this should all just sort of line up and go together. So, no measurements on that piece. I don't need the measurements on this. There's my alcohol. My Kleenexes have wandered. Paper towels have wandered off. That up while I'm here. That done. So this one, small piece goes on the outside. And there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. End cap, which this one already has this nuts in it, so I'll put him on first. And that top hole does not line up. Imagine that. Those ones line up. No, it lines up. Ish. Okay, that's all set. These mostly align. These look okay. Again, I think I got the corner a little buggered. So there you may be able to see the little stringies. So this time I'll try and cut them out versus fighting them the entire time. And instead of coming out, it went down the hole. Thank you, printed parts. Yep. In. Actually, that's pretty well lined up. It's not centered in the hole, but it is lined up with the nut, I think. Nope. Close was not close enough. Can I rescue this nut? Looks like a no. That was a miss. There's a new nut. Jack, I'll be right back. Clean that up. God, mother. Oh, this might be just shitty nuts. Good to know. That one slip. Okay. There's that. Now I gotta decide. I'll go check what length screws for the clamps. Clampy. Oh, I could do it on here. That could suck. I'm gonna go wander my other computer, which has a little more horsepower. So, actually it's supposed to be a 10 millimeter. So let me dig for those. Three, four, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Put those back. Grab the baggie of nuts, because I know I've burned through 3 already, at least. So, replace those in my pile. So what's next? So this only has that much travel in the jaws. Originally I was going to put a piece of rubber in there to really give it something to grip, but I don't think I can do that. So maybe what I'll do is, if I got stencils that pull out, I can put a little smear silicone on the stencil, or maybe a piece of tape on the stencil. Yeah, tape. You know, something thin just to give it not a metal on metal surface. Okay. Start on this end. Had I been smart, I would have put these in before I slid them on. But thankfully, they look like they're going to go in with no issues. But we will see. And that's how that works. So you loosen these off, open up the gap, put your stencil in, and tighten them back up again. Leave those loose for right now. Picture quality's pretty good. Every once in a while, this autofocus on this camera doesn't autofocus. If that makes any sense. It gets like stuck in a weird focus level. And I either have to power cycle the camera and restart the stream, or sometimes just tapping on it gets it a big enough, I don't know what. Somehow tapping on it every once in a while resets it as well. But sweet. There's the clamp with all the bolts. And I'm just going to finger tighten these just so they don't fall out. Those are on good and tight. And I can throw some bearings in there. But first, burn the strings and the goobers out of the ends a little bit. I still don't know what I bought those guys for. I'll have to go back and look at my parts listing, my spreadsheet, and see where I thought I needed M4x5s. Because obviously wherever I thought I needed those, I didn't, or at the very least I didn't use them there. I wonder if I ordered those for the knobs, maybe? And I ended up using M3 hardware? I don't think I'd screw that up. I mean, a 4mm screw is just so short. These are a good tight fit on the bearings. They're not going to fall out of that. So that's one set. So those go in there like so. Now let's work on the other set. This can go back in its pile in the box. So this set gets an extra piece. So this goes like this. Yep. Right smack dab in the middle. This block goes somewhere on there. Oh, I can line it up based on the holes in the back. Sweet! Okay, this became a lot easier. So there's the holes on the back. I could almost just drill straight through here and be done. Boom, 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 boom. So right there, I can't get that one. I need a clearance hole, oversized clearance hole for an M5. That is where this bolt will go. So this bolt threads through this part like this into this nut, and it's used to tension the top of the assembly back. And this is the clamping side. So I want to make this hole extra big. Where's my book? There's my book. Such that this clamp can still jock and move up and down even when that bolt's in place. So an M5 is a number 3. So I need the number 3. And then I think I'll drill 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch isn't that much bigger than number 3. We'll go up to 17/64. So I'm going to drill this 17/64 to give us the couple millimeters of travel it has. And then I'll drill clearance holes, number 3, which lines up with that. I have to drill this one even bigger by the time I'm done. But I'll go drill it. I'll be back. Both of those. Anything else I need? Don't think so. Center drill over here. Center drill is over here. Center drill. Go straight to the Mondo drill. I have mondoed. Mondo. Okay, put that back. Okay, I'm gonna go into full lazy mode. Probably done with that countersink. Okay. Line that all up. Put this on the right way. Now I want to transfer punch the next one down, which will be a little sketchy. Too big. Too big. That one's about right. So the reason I say it's a little sketch is because I gotta do it on the plastic. I don't want to break the plastic. Yeah, that worked. So right there is where it is now, and that's my trowel. So just double check that that looks to be centered. It does. A little deeper. Time to drill. I think this is the last hole I gotta drill in this project. Thinking. Yeah, I think everything else is just cutting and assembling. Well, that worked. As planned, it worked. Okay, next up, let's drill. Center drill away. There's that part. A little bit away. Deburr. Yeah, this one doesn't deburr nearly as well as those other ones. Do I have a medium size? Yes, I do. Much better. Okay, done deburring. Done with the transfer punches, I do believe. Now, if I was smart, I'd measure out where I put these holes. Yeah, I should do that. I don't wanna. So, center of this guy is about 9 millimeters. Center of this guy should be about 7.5. Yep. adjusters are done. A little alcohol to clean up. Sharpie. Looks pretty good. So, oh. Yeah, that's done. There, all cleaned up. This one goes on the back. Put the nuts in first this time. So, lined up. Let's get 10s and 3x10 and 3x10. Yep, that hole is clear. I loosen these up. I spread the jaws. Hole is still clear. So this is a working solution. Let's get the rest of the pieces for this. So nut goes in there like that. It lines up with that hole there. That works out nice. This one gets a nut. It lines up with that hole. It has issues. It's not because it's kittywampus. Just have a bad nut. I think I have a bad nut. It's not worth fighting a bad nut since this will be opened and closed. Or these bolts will be added and removed frequently. So I'm just going to get a new one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this nut's just bad. There's a chance it wasn't even metric. It could be some English size that's close to M3 and they just got mixed in with all the other ones. But I am just going to pitch it at this point and grab a new one. There's one. There is. Number 2 is too big. You know what? check these are metric. Yep, they are. So these ones I'm running into right now are slightly bigger than the slots, so they're not fitting in quite well. Check. I got a stringy in that hole there. There, pulled it out. Put a nut in. Punch it down. Yep, threads in okay. Alignment is all right. Not the best work I've done, but not the worst. That one actually fits pretty good. This one does not. Oh, it's all right. Okay. Suck it all the way to the back first. And tighten these up. I need some more nuts. More nuts! Okay. Those look like standard size. Those back in the bag. All those in a bag. One's good. That one is good. Clean out the stringies. Or attempt to. Ta-da. And I managed not to split any of them, which is amazing in its own right. Okay, last one. Well, that's gonna just disappear. Just make sure that fits. It does. I don't think I have any other assemblies that need M3 bolts. Nuts. Everything else goes on with T-nuts, so I'm going to put those away. Bearings. Go to my trash pile, get pitched. There's number 2. Okay, hopefully I'm done with the hammer and the center punch. That can go away. That might not be useful. These can go where they belong. I should be done with math, so that can go where it belongs. Okay, now we got a bunch of pieces that need to go on in the right order. So this bolt goes in here. I think originally there was a nut on a threaded rod, but I swapped it out for a bolt. Good, bad, or other. That's what I did. And then that assembly goes together like that. Need all these. Don't need any of that. Two springs. Most of that goes up there. Now we find out if I got the right size springs. Yes, I did. And they have a reasonable compression rate on them. They're not super stiff, and they're not just mush. Anything else I need? I need a couple extra those are M3 by 8s, and they are going to be way too short. So I need to go look up if these are 10s or 12s for these guys, because I just forgot what I used. Take care of them. These are all good. These are M3s, I bet. Darn it, I thought I was done with M3s. Ooh, they're M3s. They're M3 by 10s, not by 8s. Okay, M3 by 10s. And some more M3 nuts. Citizens of the M3 Nebula. Bonus points if you can recognize what movie that's from. That's in. That is in. Yep, 10 millimeter. It's about spot on. So without compressing the clamp, the screw is all the way through the nut. Goodness. So I need to know what screws for this. I need to know what screws for that. I got nuts left. I got the big nut. I think I can start priming this. The last two rods. There's one. There's two. Ooh, I wonder if they're M3s. Or M3s. I got M3 in the brain. M4s by 12s. Those look like M4 by 12s. Okay, so we got this sorted. This doesn't bottom out. Nope, not 14s. Must be 12s. And 4x14s. 14s were too long, so when they tightened the screw without even tightening it up, it was hitting the back of the channel. So, anything else M3 left? I currently see nothing. So I'm going to put my M3 hardware away. Which means there will be something. Okay. So I'll grab my container of M3 up to 14. Or 13, I should say. And here are the 12s. In this hole, which is relatively clean, and that's the correct one. It just pokes through the backside. So put them in backwards to poke all the little hairy bits out of the hole. Those off, poke it through, start a T-nut. Okay, that's one. So then, very gently slide that on. So this is the side without the tension adjuster. Oh, I think I had washers to put on there. Let me double check that. I'll be back. Okay, I don't know what I originally thought I needed. Ooh, it got dark out all of a sudden. My thing's still going? Yeah, it's still going. Okay. I don't know what I thought I needed the M4x5s. They're on my spreadsheet, but a quantity of 0. So, yeah. Those just get put away. And I do have an 8mm washer. M8s right here. That I want to put between the spring and the bearings. It's like stainless steel. I just don't want the end of the spring to grind away into the bearing housing. They have these nice little captors for this end. Yeah, maybe they go the other way around, but I should look at the picture. I do have a picture. And the picture says, oh, he did think of that. So I don't need these washers here. So instead of, I assume this went between the spring and the clamp, but no, instead it goes between the bushing body, or the bearing body, and the spring. So that's a much better solution. I'm going to go with that. I'll have to look at some of my other locations. I might need to print more of those. For some other locations I put washers, but we'll wait till we get there to figure that out. So that's that side. So these holders are the ones that are centered. They're not offset. So the two screws, best I can tell, are centered with the rest of the part. Some more nuts on. Nutty, nutty, nutty. Very carefully. Just thread that in. Washer gizmo, the spring, and then the clamp. Okay, that's good. Then this assembly should just face that assembly. Doing my best not to knock any bearing balls out. Okay, this gets an M5 nut. This whole thing threads through the nut. And then on this side, I gotta figure out the distance. These might be 10s. So that's the adjuster for the tension on the oh, sorry, you can't see shit. This is the tensioner for the actual stencil. So you clamp your stencil between these two, set these to get your gross adjustment, then use this for the fine adjustment to stretch it. So let's see what size. Come on. There. I think those might work. We will find out. Be very close. If I can get the T-nuts started in the channel, I think there's sufficient length on 12s. If not, I swap them out for 14s. I have a whole bag of them now. Okay, I definitely need 2 more. Get these end stops on. So I'm just pushing the stringies out of the hole. Try and rip off bulk of the excess. Had I printed these with supports, then I'd have less stringies to deal with, but it's not that bad that it matters. It's kind of amazing the printer can build up that round hole. Just the logic that goes on in there to that stuff to print as expected. So now I'm just trying to more or less line those up vertically. Repeat the same thing for this side, And then I can start the fun of trying to slide this whole thing in there. Okay, so this whole thing goes into that whole thing. And then this needs to go. Let's see if these fit. Oh, they do. Nice. That goes in there like that. These go in, hopefully. Okay. So there's that whole disaster. And this will go on the end. So I have quite a bit. Do I have... do the same trick where I just use one of these guys to set. Okay, so this is slightly less than that. So I'm going to leave this loose for right now and get this rail assembled so everything's closed in. I am going to tighten some of this stuff up just so it doesn't rattle out as I'm flipping stuff around. Problems getting this one to engage. Hopefully that does not mean that I lost the T-nut. Same problem with that one. I'm going to try and move this whole assembly up. Let's see if that lets me get those bottom ones started. I wonder if they popped out of the channel. That one I got. That one I got. Vacuum is charging. That one I can see spin. Now I got that one. That's good. That's good. Spin, spin, spin. There, grabbed. These I already had tightened down once, so they should be fine. Cool. Okay, next up, put all these together. So I'm done with this hardware for now. I may need it in a bit. So I don't need the 8s right now. These were 12s. Go right there. I can put that away. Go in the trash pile. And now we're down into, oh, these are our Ziploc bags. That's nice. The next pile of those. So just like at the beginning of the video, I'm going to preload my brackets. Get the brackets bolted on squared to these pieces. Ooh, I can't do it that way. So, since this piece goes inside of here, the 3 bolts are in this one, and there's only 2 bolts this way. So I can't sort of pre-bolt things on and then slide it in, because there's no way for me to slide it in. So I'll have to adjust everything on the fly. Not the end of the world, just not as easy. Okay, so there's one. I'm trying to put the good side out. For me, the good side is the part that went against the textured bed. Just had a nice pattern to it. Next one. There's 2. There's number 3. this should be the last one for right now. Okay, so now I gotta take this whole mess very carefully try and get it to start. There's one. Two. Oh noes! Too many dimensions of freedom. That's in. The problem I'm having now is getting, oh, never mind. I just sprung something out of square majorly. Okay. Now I repeat. Grab my clamps, grab my square. First things first, clamp my clamp. Right there. I'm going to try and bring, that's actually really good right where it's at. So I'm just going to line this up. In the tube. Ew. No, it didn't. It's there. Nice. So, sorry, deep thoughts. So now I have this top frame assembled, mostly. I was going to stop here because I kind of got the hungers. But this is so close. That's that. Those can go away. I just have this corner to do. Just sort of line it up best I can. Works well. This one's a little kitty wampus, but it adjusts. Okay, usually in the pictures this is the front, right? Yep. The adjuster wheel's in the front. I will actually adjust this probably as far forward so it aligns to the base as I can. Okay, that's all good. It's sitting up on those. So, oops. The last easy piece. Easy peasy. Got these. Question is it a 14 or is it a 12? Looks like a 14 will bottom out. Yeah, let's get 12s. M4 by 12. I need two. Two. Probably should check that. So -2 8mm wash on the stencil clamp. Okay. So these go on here like so, I do believe. And they both point the same direction. I need to line them to the lower part, so I do not want to crank them down yet. I'm in need of more nuts. I don't know if I intentionally bought extras, but I have about 30 extras. Okay, so that goes on there like that. Now can I... Through those slides an 8mm rod. Oh yeah, that totally works. crank it all the way down. Yep, it locks it. Okay. That was all I needed to know. My fear was that this was too tight with a 12mm bolt, so that it wouldn't work properly. My fears were unfounded. Two more for that. Two more for me. Some 8s. Another 8. And that just goes in there like that. Now these need to align to the ones on the base unit. So for right now, I'm just going to nip them up a little bit, but not really tighten them down. So I'll align them, I put the whole thing together, and then tighten them down. This assembly should just slide in. Oh, that nut's too tight. There. Okay, okay. Hurrah. Now this bolts to that using these. Three, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are drop-ins, so it makes that easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the proper number left for the other 2 hinges. And they use flat heads for 4. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sweet. That's done. So these guys are super easy to put in. Just prep your piece. That's basically it. They're shaped such that as soon as you start them, they lock in place. Make things so easy. The reason why I don't usually use them is if they loosen up, they can, instead of just, there's a chance of catastrophic loss of connection. So if they loosen up and back off a quarter turn, they just pop straight out as well. Where the drop-in nuts, I typically thought they were stronger because they weren't cast, but these 7mm nuts kind of suck, so I won't make that claim for them. But they typically can't just fall out, although with these 7mm nuts, due to their fitment, I don't think I make that claim either. Right. Those are all locked in. I'm going to do the same thing here. That needs to go that way. Now I'm going to bring this down line up the end and squeeze the two rails together. I want to minimize the gap between the two rails. When I tighten this. A little off. Third set of hands. Totally want one for Christmas. Okay, the T-nuts are locked in. I think. Come on, you can do it. There's one. There's two. So I'm just sort of looking in the tube, or the gaps, making sure the nut's twisted. So they should twist 90 degrees, and then they're fully locked. If they're not twisted 90 degrees, they'll still work, they just won't work as well. We have less surface area that they're spreading the force over. We have one complete failure I can see right now. This one basically didn't turn at all. There, that's fixed. That one's turned, that one's turned, that one's turned. And this one's only partially turned. Okay, so that's the top layer. So that mounts on top of this. So I want to let these sit overnight again. Knobs gets nuts. So this knob here, yeah, there's no way to connect it to this rod. It's just, yeah. So I thought this might be small. I mean, it's a decent fit, but I thought it might be small enough. That was just a push on. So he's going to need to get glued on. That's going to be fun. Super glue might do it, especially if I put a couple pips in the side, give it some surface to grip on. But I got some other stuff I need to get done today, unfortunately, so I think I'm going to call it here. I'll probably clean up some of my mess before next time. But hopefully on the next run, I should get this fully assembled. I probably won't be able to test it because I still need to make the little board holder things. But the frame itself should be done. Ooh. So, what is the maximum size? About a 240. I don't think that's in the center. I just noticed that this threaded rod was crooked, so I think it needs to go. Oh, I didn't adjust that. Boy, I'm a bit brain dead. So I never tightened, at least properly positioned, and tightened these guys. So I'm going to crack these all loose. See if I can figure out where to position this. So all the way over. Go up 5.5. So 2.5, 2.75. 2.75. Do I have anything that's... Is that an M3? 2.75 millimeters thick. Aluminum? Not that one. So I'm just looking for a 2.75 millimeter thick spacer. Oh, the acrylic was 3 millimeters. That'd be close enough. Yeah. So this acrylic is 2.9. Good enough. So I can use this. I want to lop a little piece out. Well, actually, I probably have a. My bucket of little pieces of acrylic. 2.25. That's like perfect. So I'll use that piece. Set that over there. So what all I'm going to do is put that in there. Bring that bearing. Oops, too far. Up against it. And then tighten it down. Okay, pull this out. Flip it to this end. Do the same thing. So now this rod is square or parallel to this frame member. And the other one is just going to be wherever it lands. But it should be relatively centered in this frame now. So make sure that slides freely and just barely doesn't fit. It's a little big on this side, but that is where that goes. Now the hard part, getting this square. Did I put my square away? No, I didn't. Okay, I'm done with this piece. I want to get this rod on this adjuster. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just trying to get it perpendicular to this piece. So as I run it in and out, it's not trying to chew itself up. crazy on these. Splitting them would be bad. Okay. Call that good. And these guys. My minimum stencil size is quite large. Well, not quite large, but a bit larger than I would have hoped. Sometimes I get some small stencils, but stencil has to be at least probably, if you really worked at it, 2.5 or 65 millimeters, at least in one dimension. And the biggest one I can go, that's adjusted all the way in, about 9.5 inches maybe, or 240. Okay, that's all put together. Now I can grab the base. That base. So next time I'll put the top on the bottom. I'm probably going to have to glue this front adjuster in place once I figure that out. I'm going to clean up some of the hardware I know I'm done with. For example, I have 40 extra T-nuts. That's a lot of extra T-nuts. Now, one thing I might have thought all these little pockets here were for T-nuts. So I should double check my T-nut usage. So I changed the length of the inner clamp. I got rid of 2 washers. I need to check my T-nut usage. And then it's just top to bottom, make sure that works, and I should be done, I think. I think that will be it. I have thought about if this thing is too flimsy this way on that hinge, on those 2 8mm rods, I might run from this hole a cross brace that bolts down in here. You'll have to loosen that before you do your adjustments, but then you can lock it in and it keeps that from doing this number. Basically, when things wobble, make triangles. So, okay, I'm going to call it there. Go do adult things for the remainder of the weekend. And find some food. Thanks for joining, whoever joined, and back on later.